Welcome to Gamepinions episode 39. I'm your host, Calman, and today I'm joined by Kim.
Hi.
Sorry, no one and only today.
Very sad.
There are many Kims out there in the world,
Oh.
and then you were too many Kims.
Wow, so now I don't even get a special introduction.
Well, I feel like the one and only is kind of overdone, so I want to try to think of something more creative.
I hope you do.
And I also want to think of a little elevator pitch that we say before we start every show, but that's still in the pipeline.
Oh, okay.
So, I wanted to start off this episode just by kind of having a little bit of housekeeping, because we're kind of changing the format of Gamepinions a tiny bit, or at least we're planning on doing that. So yesterday we were going to record an episode based on Treasure Cove, which is like this educational game. You guys will hear more about it when we're able to record. We had some slight little technical difficulties, no big deal, but we're going to be pushing that back a couple weeks. But that kind of opens up the little bit of a new format that we're going to be having for the show going forward. So I want to kind of separate, like when we talk about news and maybe other topics, from talking about, I guess, single games.
Well, I think news is a very vast way to basically encompass recent information about, I guess, multiple categories. I'm not sure how you want to describe this. Go ahead.
Well, I guess it's just, a way to kind of focus, like have like our episodes, I guess, more almost, not, I don't know if I want to say streamlined per se, but just kind of focus on individual things. That way, when you open up the episode, you kind of know more or less what to expect, and you're not really getting things that maybe you didn't really want when you're listening to it, if that makes sense. Like if you want to listen to a podcast about, say, Dead Space, and then we start talking about Animal Crossing news, maybe that's not what you were kind of wanting when you went in there. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, a little, yeah.
So I kind of want to make it so, you guys are going to get your content delivered to you quicker rather than having to sit and wait through, I guess, like the different news stories and stuff.
A conversation about how we get off track.
Yeah, or that, which, we definitely, have time for that. And I, like having those different areas in the podcast where we kind of go off on tangents and stuff, because I think, it's natural conversation. It's fun.
But when the main quest is foreshadowed by a side quest.
Yeah.
It gets a little crazy.
Yeah, but I also think that in many ways I kind of feel like that's where our personalities kind of come out, though, in those like, going off like the trail a little bit.
Yes.
So I definitely don't want to eliminate that. But I just kind of want to try out this for a little while. And I'm going to just name all these episodes Gamepinions episode and continue that just because it's easier for me. I haven't really figured out a way in my head to kind of separate those. But we're going to be having some new people on the show, and it's going to be really exciting. I'm very happy to have them on there. It's very, very interesting mix of different personalities, I think. And I think we're going to mesh together really well. So I'm really excited about that.
Yes, all of us are we have different genres of games that we play, and as well as different things that we actually focus on while we're playing the games, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
So.
And it's more people to kind of develop chemistry with. I feel like at least, now, like, I don't know how you feel, but because you were kind of new to the podcasting thing, do you feel a lot more comfortable now?
I do. I got my bum voice
Yeah.
now. The one where you're
we
so
don't have to
comfortable.
try as hard.
It sounds like I could eat a Cheeto and talk to you at the same time.
Yeah.
That's the voice I have now.
Yeah. So, as we continue to make episodes, that's when, the chemistry aspect kind of starts to come up and we get, really, silly and all that other kind of stuff. So this is kind of like more people to kind of develop that kind of connection with. And I think it's going to really benefit the listener and us too, because it's so much fun to do.
So if you don't like all of us, it's okay. You can only like one.
Yeah.
We don't mind.
You can pick a favorite, you can message me when, when I'm your favorite,
You all suck.
Yeah.
I only listen for this person. That's
I
great.
only listen for the intro song and then I turn it off. So yeah, and I guess other exciting news, I'm just going to go ahead and announce it. I was going to wait until we actually made the transition, but after almost 2 years, we have finally acquired Gamepinions.com. So pretty soon we won't have to be a .net. There's still a little bit of hoops to jump through, to finally get that up and running, but it is now under our ownership. and I'm super excited about that. That's going to help us get Discover a little bit more easy, and I feel like people are just more comfortable with the .com after the .net, so it really bothered me that we didn't have that, and now we have it, so I'm really excited about that. So I'd clap, but my one hand's taken off, so
Insert claps here.
yeah, I'm holding the mic in one hand, so angel claps.
It is awesome news, and especially that means we can focus on what our website's really going to entail. We can definitely look forward to, I guess, more progress being made.
Yeah,
so I'm very
absolutely.
excited, and I'm very pumped for the future.
Yeah, and it opens up different possibilities because, the .net was really just a portal for the podcast, and this probably will be similar to that for the most part for right now. But in the future, I think that there's definitely some plans that we can play around with and have some, some really cool plans with the website. And I think that, who knows, maybe we will expand and branch out to other podcasts later on too, and that would be a perfect portal for that too. So all distant stuff, not important to know right now. The most important thing is that pretty soon we will not be .net and we will have .com, and of course we will communicate that very heavily when that does occur. Probably won't be for a couple months is what I'm thinking. So, but still exciting.
It'll be beautiful.
It will be beautiful. So the site will probably see like a facelift and all that kind of stuff too. But Kim, we have some news that we're going to get into, and we're going to test out this new format and see how it goes.
Oh boy.
Are you excited?
Of course.
Okay, so I figured, why don't you start off, because you have different news stories than I do, and I'm very excited that you have your own set of notes. That is freaking awesome.
Listen, I did a lot for these notes, more than I would ever agree to. I'm very lazy. So I actually was super pumped for this news, which is, I think, probably the reason why I even bothered to take notes. Sorry, Cal.
It's okay.
But I did it. So are you ready to hear about some rumored games?
Yes.
So it is a rumor that 2 new Silent Hill games are in the works. A Twitter user, Aesthetic Gamer, is known to be a reliable leaker. Not leader, but that could be the leader of the leakers.
Yeah.
So, but they're apparently very reliable. One is supposedly going to be a soft reboot, and the other is like an episodic. It's like episodic.
Yeah,
Thank
episodic,
you.
yeah.
I have never used that term my whole life. Similar to Until Dawn. My vocabulary consists of anything from the kindergarten to like 3rd grade.
Hey, we learned something from the podcast, though.
I know, right? I personally have trust issues after that Silent Hill PT demo, to be truthful. After that had came out, I was like, yes, there's no way they could back out of it. And then they did. So
Yeah, Konami really dropped the ball on that with their whole handling of that situation. Terrible.
It made me so depressed.
Yeah,
I was so
it was
upset.
jacked up.
It was like the only game during that time I was like super looking forward to. I was like, this is it. I'm going to love this. And I'm also going to hate being scared to death. But really disappointing to me. And ever since then, I don't believe anything is like out and safely released into basically the wilderness for 3 solid days. And then I start to believe that it's actually there. Like it's not going to be taken away from me digitally. We're taking it back. And then you can't download it. And good luck to the rest of you, So I'm really pumped that these 2 new games are going to be coming out, and I'm not really picky right now about what they're going to be because it's Silent Hill.
Yeah.
So I'm not really I don't even care if most of it was cutscenes. At this point, I just want to see another Silent Hill game because of how it makes you think. It's like ridiculous how it integrates that person's like flaws or things in their life into that dimension, into that freaky world that you can never fully understand. And I say that because I try not to look too much into the lore, so I'm always surprised. So I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And then I try to reset myself. It's really weird. But anyway, so as far as the rumored games, they apparently, it's in development. They have even spotted, apparently, that the Silent Hill, they were like renewed. Like their titles or whatever were renewed.
Okay.
So, and I'm not sure if it's the game titles per se, but basically, you could definitely check the sources that I had found it at, which you could check Vicky Blade with Eurogamer, who made an article there. You could check IGN. You could check bloody-disgusting.com.
Wow.
I mean, this stuff is like everywhere.
It's an aggressive name for a website.
I know, right? It's really
surprised that wasn't taken already. I'm just kidding.
No, they put a dash.
Ooh.
But slashfilm.com and ccn.com as well as pcgamer.com have done articles all based off of this. It was like a French interview with Christophe. I'm going to butcher this. It's like Christophe. It doesn't have the R at the very end. But basically, he was like talking about rumored movies. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's when people started to dig personally into the games. Honestly, when these movies like were being announced and so on and so forth. But anyway, so rumored movies. We have a new Silent Hill movie in the development, as well as a Fatal Frame / Project Zero movie that are being directed by Christoph Gans. So he directed the 2006 Silent Hill film, and it received like kind of mixed ratings. I personally like any kind of movie coming from a game. I'm just blessed to have. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be great, even if it
And
sucks.
then it turns out to be The Last Airbender.
Oh gosh, no.
Oh.
Okay, that was the worst. I have never seen anything that bad. Like, I
That's
even loved the
terrible.
Tomb Raider movie where Angelina Jolie was in it. It was awesome. But basically, Christoph, I'm just glad he's doing, especially a Fatal Frame one. And he said that he wants to keep it to the Japanese haunted house, basically as much culture, I guess, as he can with whatever haunted stories are true per se, or, the truth to it, So he's going to probably be filming this, or at least some of the scenes in its setting in Japan or wherever it is actually located over there,
Yeah.
which I find super crazy and exciting because they are really scary. There's something so pure about those stories. Like, you are this innocent little girl, in the Fatal Frame 2 I played, which was like Crimson Butterflies. You're such an innocent girl, and you're walking through and you're seeing like these innocent people and these different like ways that they're doing these ceremonies, and you're kind of freaking out just by seeing a ghost. You're like, if a door moves, I'm going to scream. And it did happen. So I remember playing Fatal Frame when I was little, and it was my first, I guess, intro into horror games per se, right after Silent Hill. And I was like, oh boy, brace myself, right? And I was like, this isn't gonna scare me. Sure enough, as I'm playing it in the living room, my dad comes in and I'm like screaming because we were listening to one of like the ghost plays and the little ball crystal things that you put in. It's super creepy. It's super cool. I'm so excited to just have something to watch that's based off of a game that I have memories, with. So
Yeah, I feel like that's very interesting that movie. Or now, you said these are rumored to be?
now I think the Christoph Gans is more reliable with his movies that he is in development of making.
Yeah.
I think that's honestly more of a truth because that was an interview, not the games. I confused the two. So the games are not in an interview. That was just leaked by a Twitter user. My apologies. I'm like super new to these categories. I'm trying to get. I'm
That's
super
very
excited.
interesting because Fatal Frame is actually, that IP, at least I think the entire IP, is actually owned by Nintendo now.
Isn't that interesting?
So Nintendo's kind of giving them the okay, I'm assuming, unless the IP only applies to games, because it could be kind of one of those things. I mean, obviously on a much smaller scale, similar to Star Wars, where Disney has the rights to the Star Wars movies and merchandise, where EA has rights to the games.
That's
so
what I'm
maybe,
thinking.
It's kind of something like that. That's interesting, though.
But that is super exciting because I don't even care. Like, as long as there's some hope for it.
Yeah.
And they do have the sources of the French. Most of these articles that I was reading from the sources I stated have the French article of the interview with people who had translated the whole interview. So you can go ahead and head on over to one of those sources, click on them, and feel free to get some additional details as to what he was saying. Because honestly, I was just so pumped to share that. I was like, oh my gosh, guys, I'm so excited. And so many people are reporting this. I feel like at some point, it's not really just a rumor, especially if it was an actual interview.
Yeah.
That it was published to a French website. So,
Interesting.
very excited for that.
Yeah, we'll try. I've been wanting to do this, like actually providing links on our podcast, like
Okay, like in the
descriptions.
description?
Yeah, because that would be really helpful, and that's probably something we should be doing. So I'm gonna try to gather all those up and have those on there. That's another thing we're trying to do.
I will
so
send those over to you so that you can at least post
Okay.
the sources down there, and they can definitely find those articles very easy.
yeah, because then you guys can kind of read up about that yourself too, and see what we're talking about. So
Yeah, and then they are rumored at least. So I don't want to get my hopes up too high, but I always end up doing that. And
It'd still be awesome though.
I just like chuck that at you guys, like, here's this, like
Here
a
it
kid
is.
obsessed with something. I'm so sorry, because those have been my favorite like games of all time, or in, I guess, fandoms, I suppose.
Yeah, and I mean
So-
it's we're probably due for another Silent Hill game at this point. And I honestly wish that they would just, Konami would just swallow their pride and beg Kojima to make it. Can you imagine Kojima making?
I was really upset though, like
That would have been it. That would have been an incredible game.
he was such a good, and the thing is, it was such a good like idea, and the fact that they had used wow, now I only know him as Sam Porter Bridges.
Norman Reedus.
Norman Reedus, thank you. I mean, he just fit that person too. Like,
I know.
I am just hoping that he gets to be in more games, to be honest with you, because he fits such a good personality.
He does.
And it's so much easier to use him instead of make some character from scratch that you don't know if people are gonna like.
Yeah, just make Norman Reedus the new Troy Baker.
Yes, please.
It's just,
Just plug him into everything.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, I feel like that is going to happen eventually. The Silent Hill is still, a pretty big IP, and I feel like that's going to, I mean, it wouldn't make sense for them to just tuck that away and never use it again.
Yeah.
And we didn't get one on this generation of console, and now we're moving on to, PS5 and, Xbox One or Xbox Series X or whatever the heck they call it. So I mean, we're kind of due for one.
And plus, they are just rumored, so I don't know if it's in development, and they are now. The leaker, also the aesthetic guy on Twitter, from what I said earlier, he had also stated that, or I guess people that were replying to him too, that what's really they're debating is the title, what they're going to title it, because they want to also expand upon it. Which, to me, that person who's a reliable leaker of at least titles of the games that are coming out, to me, that's a clear indication that it is in the works, but I'm sure it's going to be probably a couple more years. So
Yeah, probably.
if they're still debating titles of it, that's kind of concerning, because I'm not sure what step that is in a game development process. But
yeah, and I mean, who knows? They might just use the same assets from PT. I don't know. I don't know who owns that, like the rights to that though. I don't know if Kojima, because it was kind of his, that was kind of in his wheelhouse during that time. I don't know if he owns the rights to that or not.
I don't know how messy it was and
Yeah.
what's what. So I'm just kind of like, okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to step back and let them figure it out.
Yeah, but I'm sure that will happen, and I'm surprised there hasn't been any fatal. I mean, the Switch is still fairly new, but I'm surprised there's not been a fatal frame for Switch yet. So I'm sure that's probably going to happen too.
That would be one of the best games you could probably do on the Switch, in my opinion, because they did come out with a fatal frame on the Wii, which
The
the
Wii U.
was
I think there actually might have been one on the Wii too, but the Wii U was on there.
Wii or Wii.
Yeah, the Wii.
Wii or Wii
U.
U, whichever.
Yeah, the Wii U.
So that had really kind of janky controls with the game, and I'm wondering if the Switch honestly is going to be a better option. I saw people struggling with it when I used to try to look up the Let's Play for it, because I was like, I don't got no Wii, so I looked up the Let's Play for the Fatal Frame game.
Yeah.
And I've seen people kind of struggling with looking around. So I think the Switch would probably be better with the motion controls to aim the camera and to take pictures of the ghosts and capture them to defeat them.
Yeah.
So I'm really super excited to hear any more details that come out about it. And I think that was my first time I actually reported these kind of things.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Like categories of rumored games and news. So I'm sorry, it's kind of like
No, I mean that's awesome.
sloppy.
It makes my job easier.
You are very welcome.
So I appreciate that. So that's pretty exciting.
Wait, can I say, like, hold on. Back to you, Calvin.
Yeah.
That's like the news.
Yeah. Blip, blip, blip. Okay, so I have more of a sad news story, depending on how you take it. Rockstar's co-founder and creative vice president Dan, I think it's Hauser. I think it's Hauser. I'm gonna say Hauser. It's probably Hoosier. Probably should look up these pronunciations prior to the podcast, but it kind of makes it a little bit more fun when we can't pronounce anything. So Dan Hauser will be leaving Rockstar on March 11th after an extended break that started back in last spring, so spring of 2019. Hauser founded the company alongside 4 other people, but most notably his brother Sam in 1998. Sam, who I believe is the president of the company, is going to remain with the company, so he won't be leaving. But this is according to a document filed to the U.S. Securities and Exchange, or the SEC. Take-Two Interactive stock went down by more than 4% after this, after his departure, which they say, I got this from, I believe, I can't even remember where I got this from. That's not good. But basically, it's the lowest it's been since December 9th, which I thought was like, that's not really a big deal. So I don't wonder if that was a typo. And then Take-Two wrote in that same filing to the SEC, "We are extremely grateful for his contributions," in reference to Dan Houser as well. Rockstar Games has built some of the most critically acclaimed and commercially successful game worlds, a global community of passionate fans, and incredibly talented team which remains focused on a current and future projects. Dan Houser was very instrumental in the writing of Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2, Max Payne, GTA 5, and Bully. So this is a really big loss for Rockstar.
Honestly, I only liked Bully.
You only
Sorry.
liked Bully. But these games, they have a very unique stories. They have very unique stories to them, and the writing is very wacky and crazy. And he was, like I said, heavily instrumental in, providing that content for those games. And now he's on his way out. There's speculation that the next Grand Theft Auto is going to be, tripling down on online. So maybe the story is not really the main focus anymore. I don't know. That's all speculation. Which is kind of weird because Red Dead Redemption 2 probably, was more, it was definitely more story focused than it was online focused. I haven't played it, but.
Oh, I didn't play that either. Is
Yeah.
that one with the horse?
Yeah, he was instrumental in writing that story, which apparently the story was really good from what I heard. So, it's kind of weird that he would leave after that, but it seems like maybe due to the success of Grand Theft Auto's online, Grand Theft Auto 5 online, that they're probably going to be tripling down on that and going more in that direction. And maybe he just wants to have an opportunity elsewhere to, maybe utilize his skills a little bit better.
And we also don't know any of the inner, if he did too much work in his opinion, or
Yeah.
maybe he just wants to try something new for a change,
Yeah, which is very, very possible. And it's, it's sad. He's been with the company since 1998 for so long.
Thanks for the memories.
Even though they were okay, I'm not gonna get us copyrighted. And I'll probably butcher it anyway. But yeah, that kind of sucks. It's kind of an end of an era, I guess, over there. But I guess the bright side is his brother Sam is still going to be working over there. So
Thanks, Sam. I hope that's Sam Porter Bridges.
it might be, or it might just be Sam Houser because that's his brother.
I made a joke.
I know. I wanted to squash it though.
Thank you.
So this next news story is kind of a weird one. This one was Platinum Games' critically acclaimed Wonderful 101, which released back in 2013 as a Wii U exclusive, is getting remastered for the Nintendo Switch, PC, and PS4. Now, the weird thing about this game is that this game was published and paid for, funded by Nintendo in order for this game to even be created originally. So this game is kind of weird because Platinum was unable to, I guess, get Nintendo to fund its remastered edition, and they had to start a Kickstarter. And apparently this Kickstarter was actually given the okay by Nintendo, even though it means that it's going to be going to other consoles. Very strange. Now, the Kickstarter broke its goal in less than an hour. And this is from Engadget.com. It says that it looks likely it'll hit over $1.5 million in donations. The Kickstarter also has a strange reward. If you pledge more than 1,000 yen, equivalent to around $9, this will net you the option to have Platinum co-founder Hideki Kamiya block you on Twitter. So if for those of you who don't know, Hideki Kamiya, he is basically known for blocking people on Twitter for the smallest of infractions. So if you basically message him hello on Twitter in English, he will block you.
Well, maybe it's because he doesn't want to talk to you.
I don't know. He's just a really
He blocks what he
bizarre
doesn't want
guy.
in his world.
Yeah, it's a really, really bizarre guy.
To me, that is like awesome.
It's so weird.
The truth is, he doesn't want to hear what you have to say. Like, I don't know. Like, honestly, like,
it's pretty funny.
having the block option is great, and people take it way too serious. Like, if I don't want to see something, I don't want to see it, man. Maybe I just need to start blocking more people.
Now, this is actually a tweet from AntDude92. In light of the Wonderful 101 news, I'm happy to announce that I'm part of the blocked by Kojima Club, but I think he meant Kamiya Club. So I think he mistyped there. I don't know what I did, but I'm honored. And there's the little picture
of him being blocked.
Yeah, which is pretty freaking hilarious. So really strange that Nintendo actually allowed them to do this, I guess because it wasn't really a big time seller. But in a recent 4Gamer interview translated by Siliconera, which I hope I pronounced that right too, Platinum Games head Atsushi Inaba. I'm definitely not pronouncing these right. I do the best I can.
I can't see the page.
I'm doing the best I can.
Let me see it. Oh, Itushi and Inaba?
Something like that, yeah. Anyway, the head of Platinum Games spoke about the process of getting permission from Nintendo to release the Wonderful 101 on other platforms alongside of the Switch version. And Nintendo didn't have any problems with it. And this is what he had to say. I know it's on a completely different scale, but that's like talking about bringing God of War to other platforms. But then Nintendo told us that it was fine, just like that. And now there's a chance we can even release the Wonderful 101 on platforms such as the PS4 and Steam if we can reach the stretch goals for the crowdfunding, which they did. They destroyed it. So really weird. Because Nintendo is really like usually very, locked down. So they obviously probably didn't care too much about this. But, Platinum Games, and actually I think Hideki Kamiya actually came out and said that, because people are kind of speculating, hey, what is if they do this with the Bayonetta franchise now because Nintendo is publishing that too. And they basically came out and said that, we're not going to be using this crowdfunding thing as like a normal thing. This was kind of an exception to get this game out there, but it's not going to be something they commonly use. So, but very interesting though that they took that route because Platinum's kind of a smaller developer, but they're known for making really high quality games. So the extra financial support was, really, really helpful. So I think this will actually release in April because they have it complete. They were just trying to guarantee, I guess, game sales. So.
Well, that's kind of awesome. I mean, just so that you're, you can kind of like pay somebody so that they make you
a
video game. But at the same time, what is that game going to be priced is another thing that is debatable in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, it's great for crowdfunding because obviously you don't have to.
Yeah, and that's awesome because if you think about it, like 10 years ago, this wouldn't be possible.
I know,
it's crazy. Or well, maybe 10 years ago. I can't remember what, but close to that. 15 years ago. It wouldn't have been possible to do this. So it's kind of cool that they were able to use that, as their advantage.
Instead of getting that new Elder Scrolls horse for $30.
For $30,
They can't take any more of my money anymore. I'm really sad. Anyway, continue.
So, if you notice the list, Xbox One was not included on there. However, they did say that getting the PlayStation 4 and Steam on there was a really big endeavor for them. But they said if the crowdfunding is a massive success, which it's looking like it is a massive success, they would explore the options of bringing it to other platforms, which would include the Xbox One.
Yeah, thanks. Last
so
person in the race here.
I think the reason why they didn't is because this type of game that it is doesn't fall in line, I guess, maybe analytically with what Xbox players typically buy. So it's kind of more of a cartoony game in a way. Not really sure how I describe it. I played the demo back on Wii U like years ago, but it might not be something that maybe Xbox players usually gravitate towards.
Or maybe they just haven't gotten to that stage of talking with them yet. So
Yeah,
we'll
which
see.
we'll definitely see, and I think that it probably will eventually go to Xbox. So this next story is also a bit of a weird one. Well, maybe not weird if you consider Nintendo does some weird stuff, but the official Nintendo of Australia website for Animal Crossing New Horizons confirmed that there will only be one island per console. So you can only have one island that if somebody else wants to play on your Switch, they can create a character, but they're going to go to your same location, which is actually how it's always been. So that actually didn't really change. But the weird thing, and the biggest kicker, is that this is from Rostera.com, a site member, Athreos, showed a screen grab of a download card that shows that there are no file transfers allowed in the new Animal Crossing Horizons game. So that means if you buy a Nintendo Switch, you want to upgrade, say the Switch Pro comes out, you want to upgrade, there's no way to transfer your file to that new Switch from your Animal Crossing.
Oh my gosh.
So really backwards.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Now Nintendo did come out and say, I believe today, that they are considering adding some kind of file backup for.
Give us an insertable physical disc. I don't care.
I know they said they're considering adding a data backup for Switch Online users only. So if you're paying that $3 or whatever it is per month,
don't forget to pay a month.
yeah, otherwise it's gone. So it's a little bit weird. It's a little bit strange. People are not happy about it. There's kind of been like a war going on between Nintendo and its fans this week. But just before I get into some of the tweets, another interesting note to take is that on the card it did say that the game is going to support Amiibo, which isn't really a big deal. But the thing that I like is that it will be a 6.2 gigabyte download, which is tiny. So that's going to be nice.
How pleasant is that?
So we'll be able to download Animal Crossing in like 10 minutes.
That's without all the extra DLC they're giving you.
I know. I think that's probably going to be about as big as it will be. So that part's exciting. I mean, most of this stuff probably won't affect me. If the Switch Pro comes out, I probably will upgrade at some point. So I'm hoping that they do have some kind of data backup.
I hope so too, because I want a custom Switch, and I'm like, that won't be possible if I start my Animal Crossing journey.
Yeah. So
I gotta find a pink Switch very fast.
Yeah.
Or light.
Otherwise,
Switch
it's
light. Oh.
So this is at, their name is so long, at Rosalina Aslam or Azluma. I don't know. Rosalina's Luma. That's it. Okay. Oh man, this is so disappointing. What if my Switch breaks? What if I'm going to buy a new Switch? I don't want to lose my save file. I'm really excited about Animal Crossing New Horizons, but this is just so sad. And it is sad because Nintendo has to. The one complaint I have about Nintendo is that they do certain things that go against industry standard, features. So having file backups and being able to save things to a profile, this is things that they should have had in place a long time ago. You can throw the party chat thing in there. I've complained about that multiple times on this podcast. They need to cut down on those things. That it's okay to do things different. It's okay to be different. It's okay to do things different. But when it comes to, important things such as data transfers and having things hooked up to your profile, no matter where you're playing, what Switch you have with your profile,
I feel like that's
they need to fix it.
Really big deal breaker when it comes to their initial sales, because people then are going to want to get the Switch they want before they get the Animal Crossing, which might actually be a problem, especially if you want to upgrade.
Yeah.
I'll just hold out until the next Switch is out and then I'll get Animal Crossing. It could really mess up their sales. So I'm kind of concerned about how they're going to judge the stats on that. They should know that's going to have an impact.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll be honest, I feel like most of the people that will buy Animal Crossing probably don't even know about this, and they'll probably never come across it
until it breaks, or until they accidentally drop it in the pool.
Then oh crap,
or something.
But for people like us, and for people that are kind of, I guess, more informed, about things that are kind of going on in the industry.
More like obsessed, but go
Yeah.
ahead.
Uh, like this kind of is a little bit lame. It's like, you guys have had years since the Wii. You've seen other infrastructures in place, other ecosystems that these other consoles have mastered over the years. It's like you guys couldn't have fixed this for the Switch. The Switch is so close to being, such an amazing console. I mean, it's already a great console, but it has, if you just, focused on these little details that are standard in the industry that you're in, you're missing out on something, and you shouldn't be. It's like a lack of foresight again when it's been staring you in the face for years now.
Even if they just made, like, listen, I love Animal Crossing, and I would actually be content if they just made a physical disc thing to plop in my Switch.
But we have that. We have an SD card.
Game thingamabob that goes in there. Let us save it to that then. I don't care. Just get us to save it onto something that is not going to crash and burn the moment I break my Switch.
It's very disappointing, to say the least.
They're so I don't know. They're just like, yeah, my Switches ain't gonna break. Don't worry. What are you talking about?
It is possible, though, that we're freaking out for nothing. And
yes,
as long as you have the online, it's going to transfer just fine. They have other games that do transfer fine. So maybe it's just the way it's worded. It's also in a different language. So maybe once it comes out, it'll be fine. But at Blake Case said, I can't believe Pokemon Sword and Shield lets each profile have its own file, but Animal Crossing won't. That's kind of crazy. But once again, like I said, it is kind of crazy. It's a little bit weird, but it's kind of how it's always been.
I'm really expecting this Animal Crossing to do bad because it's not hyped up to be what it is.
Yeah.
That just makes me more concerned about, what do you mean we can't save our progress? Like, just in case we have to get a different Switch, are you telling me there's something going on there? Or
Yeah.
Come on. People are dying for this game, and there's more features that were added to it. And you're something that literally will take one full day of human life to go through, and then you got to wait for actual winter for it to turn winter.
I know.
Are you telling me, no. Don't worry, after 365 days of you playing, it won't matter at all when your Switch breaks. Sorry, can't transfer. Like, that's just...
Yeah,
and we
I
could
think
just
this
be
is
freaking
gonna.
out. They could just be coming out with this to see the waters. And
I feel like this wasn't intended to come out. I feel like this was not the way that it wanted to be presented. I think that I feel like for some reason it was kind of lost in translation, and that they will have a ability to transfer files. I think that is going to be a thing.
I just hope there was a mistake. There was miscommunication.
I hope so too, because it's kind of ridiculous at this point in time. Like I said. Now at Infectious, I can't see your name. It's at Infectious Cat. I don't think you've ever played Animal Crossing. It's literally always been like this. One town why do I keep saying poor instead of per? It's going crazy. One town per memory file. You can create multiple playable villagers, but it's always been one town. But good job getting those complaining retweets and likes. Eye roll emoji.
Wait, what? Are you telling me I could have made another villager for my town and I never knew this? Because every time I made a new villager, I had a different town.
No, it's always been whenever you create a new villager, they just go into your house. Well, at least in Wild World, it would add a bed to your house.
Listen,
In this one, I think it might add a house.
Whichever one I played, you couldn't do that. So I just don't want to promise that to anybody, because when I did it, I must have did it wrong or something, because I got a new town.
You can erase your file.
I must have played a very old version of Animal Crossing or something.
Yeah, because I think it's always just been you're in the same town. I don't think you can go and get a new town unless you erase your data from the last town.
And it's okay to complain. It's okay.
Well, yeah, it is okay to complain, just because,
opinions.
you should be able to have multiple files, because not everybody just owns their Switch for themselves. You should be able to have your own. At P Gray, wow. You won't be able to transfer your Animal Crossing save file between Switches? That is beyond shit.
Oh. Oh, wow.
So, strong opinion of it. And before we go into the next section here, just wanted to say one more thing. I forgot to add this in when we were talking about the Wonderful 101, so I wanted to just kind of throw this in here.
No, go ahead.
So this was at Yu Yu Kami. Wow, apparently Nintendo still owns the IP for Wonderful 101, but they are still allowing the game to go to PC/PS4 if it meets the required stretch goals. What a timeline we live in. And I agree.
Interesting.
So, I guess we'll go ahead and move on to the next section. If I can just pull up my notes because I am all out of sorts. So this is the little slice of Xbox news. Once again, Xbox is not really having a ton of news right now, but this is the one thing that I was able to gather from this week that really stood out to me. So Phil Spencer, the head of the Xbox brand, the chief, the guy in charge, he told Protocol.com when they were talking about, I guess, the different cloud solutions, and they were talking about, how he views Nintendo and Sony for this upcoming generation. And he had this to say: when you talk about Nintendo and Sony, we have a ton of respect for them, but we see Amazon and Google as the main competitors going forward. That's not to disrespect Nintendo and Sony, but the traditional gaming companies are somewhat out of position. I guess they could try to recreate Azure, but we've invested tens of billions of dollars in cloud over the years. So this is kind of, what the new direction. Amazon and Google have, some of the biggest, cloud-based, research and all that they've poured in over the years. Microsoft, I think, may have topped them in terms of how much money they've dumped into that. So not really a, bash against Nintendo or Sony. It's just kind of showing that, they're kind of focusing on a different, I guess, playing field than they were last generation.
Yeah, what kind of playing field? You wanna expand on that for the gamers out there? That's what I don't fully get. I don't understand how that. I don't look at Amazon and go, "Yay, I'm gonna go play a game."
I don't either.
Just
and
because
Stadia's been disappointing too.
Maybe your cells on there and your physical games are being bought on there instead of people actually walking through a Wally World or Target, to get to it. Okay, just because we don't want to go in person, we order it online does not mean we're just going there to play games.
Yeah.
I don't understand. They don't ever expand upon what they're stating when it comes to Google or Amazon. Okay, as a gamer, as your competition is the other consoles. It is the games you are releasing. Is Amazon releasing a game? No, Amazon's not even a console. Okay, I don't understand why you think they're your competitors if we're talking about video games. Okay, so what he's saying to me, literally, I just can't. It's like asking, what's your favorite ice cream? And you say, actually, we're actually looking to the pretzel industry. Wait, what are you talking? They're our competitors. You know why? Because they're salty. Wait, but ice cream's a dessert. I don't understand where you're coming from. It's really disappointing that you feel like it's just not going in the direction you want as a fellow fan. I'm so confused and upset.
Now, I feel like Amazon is coming out with their own gaming service. But I do agree with you that I don't think that you can look at the Switch and you can look at the PS5 and necessarily say that they're, not competing with you directly, because they kind of are. Now, I think this is also kind of a quote out of context. So I'm sure that there's more to it than this. But, this also might be a playoff, because, Sony and Microsoft have teamed up to, find, different cloud solutions in gaming. That was one of the things that came out this year, which we did talk about on the show, I think, back in the summertime. So they did, decide they're going to kind of team up to go against Google when it comes to this kind of thing. Now, it's interesting, though, because just days ago, Nintendo's president, Shuntaro Furukawa, said that the new consoles wouldn't impact, the Switch's business. He doesn't anticipate it really changing much for the Switch. So once again, not really a bash against the new consoles, but Nintendo, I guess, feels like they're doing something different, and that they're just going to continue to do it.
Let me state this: Microsoft's over here waving the white flag, saying, "Oh, we're not focused on video games anymore. We might actually eventually just be able to provide something for these other fellow consoles." To me, they always started going more towards apps, more towards what they can do for entertainment, rather than video games per se. And I think it's because they know at this point they're being defeated. PlayStation has VR. I mean, freaking Nintendo has a Switch, a mobile gaming console that's very successful. And what does Microsoft have? We have our apps. Now you can watch Netflix. Now you can watch YouTube.
But when they're talking about the cloud, because they've invested heavily in xCloud, which is actually a streaming game service. So they want to be able to compete with what Google Stadia is doing. But even Google Stadia, the technology isn't perfect yet.
Even streaming. Streaming and whatever, us as YouTubers and Twitchers and Mixers and whatever Facebook Livers are doing, you're going to end up doing it no matter what the console really has to offer. Granted, we like the recording mechanism. It makes our lives easier.
Yeah.
It makes things easier for us if we're streamers to do it, but it doesn't necessarily mean as a console that should become your primary focus. You should really look at them with the utmost respect, but acknowledge they are your competitors, because you just stating they aren't does not make them not your competitors.
Yeah.
That's what really gets me riled up. It's like, no, they obviously are consoles still. You can't just not acknowledge you're coming out with a console for video games and you're not in competition with them in the market. That doesn't make much sense at all.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm a heated Xbox fan.
And it is kind of, I guess, a weird comment, especially when, the PlayStation 4 kicked the Xbox One's butt this entire generation. It still
don't
continues.
Even start with that.
So
okay?
I'm just saying, it is true. And, Switch, I think, is even probably on pace to outsell the Xbox One as well.
I just wish they would come out with something that actually has something different than the other consoles. I feel like after the Kinect, they cried a little bit, tossed it in the trash, and they said we give up. I just want something new that they can do. And I'm sure, I'm honestly very positive there's contracts made with Amazon and Google, and there are things that they have to prioritize now because they probably got themselves into something they didn't necessarily want to get into. And the problem is probably money in that realm of them and focus for video games.
Yeah.
At this point, I think that they're going to have to, as a business or whatever you want to call Xbox consoles, they're going to have to start thinking differently in a different direction, because I don't think they could compete anymore. And it's really upsetting, because if they would just try to be a little bit more creative, they could come up with something for us. It's just really disappointing to me.
Now, I honestly think that the bright side of that is that Xbox and Microsoft, they have invested heavily as this generation has wrapped up in acquiring different game studios. So, Obsidian was the big one, and that is probably going to, it's going to probably produce them some pretty awesome content this generation.
And you can acquire them, but if they're not exclusives, I'm still mad.
Yeah, I agree with that too. But, I think way back when we talked about how Xbox might be trying to, not only have its own console sales, but also branch out in, finding ways to make money off of other consoles as well and kind of win in that way. So we're not really sure yet. We're not really sure what their plan is, but
it's literally in a dark shroud of confusion.
Yeah, because there was a while there we had like those rumors where, there was going to be like Game Pass on the Switch and all that, and that really hasn't come to be yet, and that was a while ago. So we don't really know. Like, we don't know what they're planning on doing, but it's definitely going to be interesting as we head into this next generation.
And I get really heated when I talk about Xbox, just because it's like, why don't you do more? I love you.
When will you learn that your actions have consequences?
Like, I'm the person that will still own all the consoles one day. I'll buy them slowly and progressively.
Which we do. We
I mean, that's
typically
just our
do.
problem.
Yeah, it's an issue.
But Xbox, I have my childhood nostalgia, so I get a little like crazy, and half the things I say don't quite make sense just because I'm upset. So
That's what makes it fun.
that's what makes it very entertaining for you guys to have, first hand observation to my meltdown, right?
Yes. Now, we're going to head on to our last piece of news today, and this also relates to a next generation console, one that I'm very excited about. The PlayStation 5 receives an official splash page, and the splash page reads, PlayStation 5 is coming, launches holiday of 2020. We've begun to share some incredible features you can expect from PlayStation 5, but we're not quite ready to fully unveil the next generation of PlayStation. Sign up below and be among the first to receive updates as we announce them, including the new PS5 release date, PS5 price, and upcoming roster of PS5 launch games. So there was a lot of speculation that the PlayStation 5 was going to be $500. I think it's actually going to be $400, the same as the PlayStation 4. And what I've been hearing from just a few people in the industry, they seem to think that they're going to wait for Microsoft to reveal the price of the Xbox Series X before they make their decision. So they'll probably undercut.
They don't even need to do that. I mean, the PlayStation 4 had VR.
And this one will have it too.
There was different versions of PlayStation you can get at this point.
Well, and that's a good point that you're bringing up here.
There's different versions. There's different price ranges. Xbox was like 500 and nothing, or 400 or whatever. Honestly, it was just ridiculous. And to even pay that much money made me cry. So I will be highly upset if they price this stuff like above $500.
They won't. Yeah, they won't.
That's when I cut it off, and I'm like, I remember back in the day we got a new computer for $500.
Oh, God.
Like, that was my system for a while. And now it's like $1,000. I mean, for your kids, imagine if all your kids want their own console.
I know. It's terrible.
$1,500? I mean, their credit cards be giving out or something.
You have to wait for the 3-year price drop. I mean, the thing is that I don't think PlayStation will venture past 400. I just think 400 is kind of the sweet spot because it looks. I mean, 400 looks pretty appealing. $399.
I guess.
Because it makes it seem a lot cheaper than it is. But I do believe that PlayStation 5 has a chance, and this has been rumored, that it could release, similar to what I think the Xbox Series X will release, with a standard version of the console and then a pro version of the console, so a more powerful version. Obviously, the other one will be cheaper, and then the pro version will be more expensive. So maybe you have like maybe the PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5, standard edition for like $350. And then you can get the Pro for like maybe $450.
I really hope that that's the case because I'm tired of waiting for them to announce a new PlayStation at a cheaper cost.
I know, yeah.
I'm tired of that. How about you come up with the cheaper one or the standard, the Lite, which is the cheapest, and then something like, Pro, which is the most expensive, all at the same time. Because honestly, you can actually gauge those stats, that kind of reporting, a whole lot easier and see what you need to cut for your next generation console.
Yeah, I feel like it's not as lucrative though because, when you introduce this new hardware, because if you had the same piece of hardware that is out for the entire generation, you're not renewing interest in the brand necessarily to entice people to, get new hardware. So I see it from that business perspective where maybe what I said earlier doesn't necessarily make sense.
How about new colors or new design like they have been doing anyway? That makes more sense.
It does, but I feel like, I don't know.
Start giving them names. Carol. Jen.
The PlayStation Jen.
Jennifer.
But I don't know. I'm honestly not really sure what they're going to do, but I feel like having 2 editions of the system to start off and then maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 years down the line, you release an even more powerful one, or you release one that is translucent or pink or purple or gold or whatever. So I don't know.
Cloud blue.
Yeah, this one's camouflage. You won't be able to see it on your entertainment center. So I don't know.
This is stressing me out.
There's
new
too many
consoles
choices.
Really get me aggravated. It's like there's a point where you're excited and there's a point where you're just starting to get frustrated because you just want it to come out.
I know. I want to see what these look like. I mean, obviously we've already seen Xbox. I want to see what the PlayStation looks like, and imagine we're getting closer and closer with each passing day. So, I mean, they're not going to reveal it at E3. I wonder if they're going to wait till after or before. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either. I feel like 2020 is definitely going to be a very important year for people to gauge what's going to be good or valid or standard for the next 10 years. I feel like this is going to be a very important year to determine the future plans, basically.
Yeah.
And that kind of has me scared because I'm like, Xbox, you could survive another 10 years if you try. I'm like so nervous.
Yeah. And also, just going to throw this in here too, that Nintendo also intends for the Switch to last longer than their previous home consoles. So they have big plans for the Switch, which they also, I don't know if I ever mentioned this in our last episode, but they've come out and said that they have no new Switch hardware planned for a release this year. Where have we heard that from before? Last year, before they released the Switch Lite. And the whole, we're not going to release a new hardware thing is really weird to me, because it doesn't necessarily rule out that they're going to release hardware, because why would they tell you straight up, oh yeah, all the people that are about to buy this Animal Crossing special edition, you might want to wait because we're going to release a PlayStation Pro, or not PlayStation Pro. Can you imagine that? Surprise. It's like, wait a minute, PlayStation's scratching their heads. But no, it's like,
we're releasing Play Switch.
Yeah, we're we're going to release the Switch Pro, so don't buy that Animal Crossing special edition. And then you also have to keep in mind that, it might not even be considered necessarily new, a new next generation hardware. He might be talking about, we're not going to be releasing a next generation system, or, the next system in the line. It's a different SKU of the Switch. So there's a lot of technicalities that you can get into that kind of make it so that whole statement that they made about this really doesn't even mean much. It doesn't hold a lot of weight because they're not being specific. And we've seen this time and time again. We're not going to be releasing any new 3DS hardware. Oh, here's the 3DS XL right after E3. Here's the 2DS.
It's almost like a tease.
Yeah.
And no one likes a tease. You know why? Because we lose hope each time. And then we get really excited, and we do. And it's really cruel.
Yeah. It's only a matter of time before this happens. So the Switch Pro, I'm going to stick with my prediction and say that it'll be revealed in July after E3.
And I swear, if we keep getting like 5 new variations of different Switch controllers that look like they're just stickers on them, I'm going to be really upset. Give us some actual
I would like to see
custom cool designs, because I'm starting to feel like I could slap a sticker and sell it for $60.
Yeah, I'd like
I'm
to
getting
see redesign Joy-Cons, but also maintain compatibility to the old ones too. But these new ones just have, upgraded motion and all that kind of stuff, upgraded ergonomics for a, presumably released Switch Pro.
Give us a square edges, round edges, buffier ones. I don't.
Something.
Give us some difference, and give us some matching colors, because you're driving me crazy.
Yeah.
Me
We need
personally,
something.
I never thought I'd have an issue with that, because I know left one's this color, right one's that. But let me tell you, it keeps me up at night.
Why don't they match?
I've never been like that. I wear different socks on my feet, and I had to get black ones because it started bothering me.
It's actually a genius idea on their part, though, because that means you have to go and buy extra controllers. It's like, these are still functional. You can still use them. But if you want to have a solid blue or a solid red Switch, you're going to have to shell out some money.
Which is also a lie. Okay? Because if you're not careful, you can easily buy the wrong package and you get the same controller that doesn't go on the right side.
No, they actually, that's not true. Because
Really?
It's not true. Because the ones that you buy, because here's the issue that you'll run into. So the ones that you'll buy, if you buy like the alternating red and blue, those are the only ones that are available. So if you got the gray Switch and you're trying to get full red or full blue, that's when the issue comes into play.
That's what I'm talking about. So let's say,
because you can't get the ones that are on the console, which I think now you probably can get double. But and when the Switch first came out, those were really hard to find.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so I just want them to come out with a matching pair. Okay.
Yeah,
Maybe
at
like
launch.
release like 2 or 3 matching pair Switch cons instead of these little controllers that have decal slappers
Yeah.
on them. Like,
Which they've done it before. When the Mario Odyssey Switch came out, it had like the darker Mario red. It was both the Joy-Cons. They were both that color. We haven't seen that since.
it's driving me crazy. It just is. And when is it going to take time for pink things to be released? I thought we got to the stage where we realized a lot of people like pink, including boys and girls and everybody included in between and all above, even if you're a horse. Can't we just have, I don't know, one edition that's pink? I would get my, you know what I'm saying?
I wonder if statistically those sell bad. I'm curious to see what the pink 3DS numbers were when they released that.
Rose gold. There you go. Got him hook, line, and sinker. Okay,
Yeah. I mean, we do have a pink Joy-Con, but I guess it's more of a hot pink.
Yeah, it's not the light pink.
Yeah.
And oh, it's only one Joy-Con.
You can buy another one though.
Oh, if you struggle and you pay $60 for one and then $60 for the other, then for $120 it could be yours. I think I'll
Here you
stick
go.
to Etsy and getting custom matching.
I mean, that
ones.
might honestly be the best. Honestly, with how these Joy-Cons are constructed though, I probably would just wait for the new redesigned one, which I'm pretty sure we'll eventually get.
I'm gonna decorate my own. I give up.
I'm just gonna dunk mine in chocolate and have chocolate covered Joy-Cons.
Yeah, we're gonna tie dye ours.
I want them to release pretzel Joy-Con, so it looks like pretzels.
No, that'll make you hungry.
I'm always hungry, so what does it matter?
Is you're eating your own console. Chocolate Factory.
I wanted to read this one because I decided that I missed another one.
Oh, you decided.
Yeah, I decided I missed another one. This was at Big Mac. If he listens to this all the way to the end, I mean, major props to him. But he said, this is about Dan Hauser. He said, "Wow, this sucks, but thank you, Dan Hauser, for all the legendary games you helped create. Hashtag Rockstar Games." So I just wanted to throw that in there because I like getting, these tweets on here, and I was a little bit disorganized today. I didn't put them in my notes this time, so that's shame on me.
I felt a little disorganized. This was like our first attempt at actually giving you guys like
Just
news.
a straight up news podcast to focus a little bit more, give our opinions of it. We've been opening up the podcast a little bit more in terms of, who we're showing it to. I'm a very private person, so the people that I know in like actual real world,
IRL.
I typically like to kind of remain under wraps, but slowly and surely we've been kind of, advertising a little bit to people outside of our comfort zone. So we're kind of getting, I guess, more people that we know listening to the show, which is kind of cool. So
It honestly is like kind of crazy when you do tell somebody and they actually like listen to it.
I know they're actually really interested. They're like, "Oh wow, we love your show." Also, crap, I forgot. I have to read the review that we now have on Apple Podcast.
Yay!
I can't be going against my word here. So let's go ahead and pull that up real quick.
And if you leave a review, we definitely see them. I remember that we were reading it together actually. We just need to mention it to everyone who's listening on here as well.
Yes.
So, and excuse how disorganized we are for our very first podcast where we're kind of getting things organized and classified. But we definitely want you guys to be able to listen to things you're interested in. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go ahead and boot this on. And let's go ahead and read this review.
Exciting.
We have to turn our phones on airplane mode while we record, because otherwise you get a really cool beat that doesn't necessarily sound great when you're listening to the podcast. So just need to wait for this bad boy to load anytime
Like
now.
a
Podcast.
microwave.
There we go. All right, so this is from Kobe Vader. He says, "Greatest podcast ever created. Love you guys." He said, "Love you guys chemistry." I think he meant love your guys chemistry. "And keep up the good work, bro. But yeah, I mean, if you guys leave reviews on here, we will read them. We'll try to read those at the beginning of the show, though, because if we wait to the end, no one's ever going to hear them.
No,
So,
definitely not.
yeah, so that's pretty exciting. So thank you for the review, and we're going to try to keep on improving the show. If you guys are listening to this and you have heard our other podcasts and you're seeing that we're doing like this, change of format, let us know how you liked it.
Give us a review on how you liked it, or if you want us to keep maybe like our old, more natural kind of podcast. But I guess we're just trying to get a little bit more specific to give you all more details and more time on the topics that we're actually supposed to talk about.
Yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. And, as always, you can find us on your favorite podcast app. And you guys can also head on over to Gamepinions.net while you can, because soon it'll be .com. So thank you guys so much for listening in, and we will catch you guys next week for hopefully 2 Game Pinion episodes. Woo. So, yeah, keep on keeping on.